looking for ammunition.
My boys have two red muskets and they're firing back with them.
Sir, we ought to pull out.
No, we can't do that.
We can't hold them again, sir. You know that.
Well, if we don't, they go on by and over the hill and the whole flank caves in.
Sir, here they come.
Well, we can't run away. And if we stay here, we can't shoot. So let's fix bayonets. We'll have the advantage of moving down the hill. Move.
Killer Rangers won the Pulitzer Prize for Literature in 1974. It's another book credited with redefining a genre. But how does it play with a hardcore history nerd and novelist? Let's talk about it. What's up, Internet? My name is Thad Diaz, author of Tampa Heat, the story of a firefighting PI who stumbles onto a dark Tampa secret. I spent 25 great years riding a fire truck while also penning sci-fi and fantasy novels, but I hung up my bunker coat to go full-time as an indie writer. Michael Shaara's Killer Angels is told on the sweeping canvas of the Pennsylvania hills. It tells the tale of one of America's most iconic battles, though not through fictional characters and made-up officers, but through the eyes and ears of men who fought there. He concentrates on a few icons of history, in particular Confederate Generals Lee, Longstreet, and Armistead on one side, and General Hancock and Colonel Chamberlain on the Union side. The story does a fantastic job telling the tale of Gettysburg, but like any great work of fiction, it draws the reader in through its well-crafted characters and indelible themes. And the central theme in Killer Angels focuses on the tension between man's capacity for love and devotion while visiting horrific crimes upon one another in the name of that love and devotion. It contrasts the high-minded principles of soldiering, duty, honor, and sacrifice with the brutal reality and tragedy of a trade that is fundamentally one of violence. The two principal ways Shaara does this is through the story of real-life, star-crossed friends Louis Lowe Armistead and Winfield Scott Hancock, and the fictitious relationship between the real Colonel Joshua Chamberlain and fictitious ex-sergeant Buster Kilrain. The doomed generals of Armistead and Hancock were close in the old army. Now they stare across a bloodied field at each other, destined to raise their swords in direct confrontation. Each is anxious to see the other, but not like this. Not under these circumstances. And despite the horrific proposition of wreaking violence on the man each loved as brother, neither doubts his responsibility nor flinches from the path destiny has laid before him. And as they find themselves awash in a sea of blood, they sacrifice their lives and kinship for a cause greater than themselves. The scenes play out with the pathos and inevitability of a Greek tragedy. They keep the reader riveted through the climax of the battle and the novel, leaving that reader as shell-shocked and battered as the characters on the page. The other great relationship through which Shaara illustrates the conflicting theme of humanity's virtue and sin is through the fictitious Buster Kilrain and the real Colonel Joshua Chamberlain. Chamberlain is a starry-eyed idealist, fresh from a Bowdoin College professorship where he taught philosophy and rhetoric. He's marched off to fight for the high-minded principles of emancipation and freedom. In fact, he gives a speech to that effect to a bunch of mutinous soldiers in the book's opening chapters. Kilrain is an Irishman and professional soldier whose hard drinking and tough living put him in the army doghouse. But he fights and has a bond with Chamberlain, so he stays out of the stockade. Additionally, his view of humanity as a whole is more cynical than Chamberlain's. Kilrain doesn't view mankind through the Colonel's rosy lens. He sees the other's idealistic causes as noble and admirable, but he also sees the evil they seek to rectify as a matter of incurable human nature. The differences between these men and the conversations they have is a fine example of contrasting characters to explore theme. The beats are thought-provoking, insightful, and thoroughly enjoyable. So, what's the word? Amazing! Killer Angels first came to my attention in my junior high school days when I was reading a book a week about the Civil War. I told you, history nerd. But I was wary. I'd read many movie novelizations and couldn't stomach the thought of some author doing the same to my heroes, so I took a hard pass and didn't even watch the movie it inspired for years. Boy, did I miss out. Shaara paints a picture of Civil War combat and historical moments with the precision of a historian, but his narrative, characterization, and hard-hitting themes make this tale a fantastic work of fiction. Yes, by definition, he adds thoughts and creates conversations from the historical context, but it feels grounded in the history and takes the reader as close to the battle as any mortal can. Additionally, Shara crafts his theme of the contrasting values of soldiering through all of his characters. The old-school soldier Lee loves both his old and new armies. He never sees the boys in blue as quite the enemy, and he's conflicted over the rising human toll this war is taking. This drives him to finish the war, here and now, knowing he cannot flinch, lest the war go on forever. Longstreet has grave doubts about his commander's plan. He's certain battle here will lead to disaster, yet his very status as Lee's old warhorse puts him in command at that critical moment, leaving him unable to do anything but order the end of thousands of his best men. Killer Angels is an outstanding tale of the triumph and tragedy of war and the duality of man. It's an epic tragedy and a story of self-sacrifice for a greater cause. Read Killer Angels today.
Oh, listen, just one more thing.
That's all for today. Thanks for joining us. Please leave a like and subscribe. Do you have a question or something you'd like to say? Want to request a book or topic? Leave a comment. You can support this channel by buying one of my books seen here. Happy reading!